Welcome back to Simply Accounts, a one-stop channel wherein all your doubts or queries relating to accountancy subject in classes 11th and 12th will be resolved. We are dealing with this series here. This is part 2 of the series. In part 1, we described or gave a general outlook or a broad overview of what you need to prepare for your accountancy practical. In part 2 of this series, we'll be going in depth into ratio analysis. Let's start from the very beginning. The basics. What are the basics of a ratio? A ratio is a relationship between two values. It's a comparison between two values. Let's assume our original ratio is 3/2 and we increase the denominator from 2 to 4. So the value of the ratio decreases. The original ratio becomes more than the newer ratio. So when only the denominator increases, the new ratio decreases as compared to the original one. When only denominator decreases, the new ratio value is more than the original value. In a Viva scenario, a teacher may ask you, has your ratio improved? Has your ratio declined? You should be able to answer that without any problem. Just simply concentrate on the basics of mathematics. A ratio is nothing but a comparison of two distinct values, A upon B. When the numerator increases, ratio increases. When the numerator decreases, ratio decreases. If numerator increases and the denominator decreases, the ratio will increase. I've given you examples so that you can understand this concept in very simple terms. Likewise, if numerator decreases and denominator increases, the ratio will decrease. What happens if both numerator and denominator increase by the same amount? If the original ratio is 2:1, that means the original ratio is greater than 1. Here numerator is 2 lakh, denominator is 1 lakh, and the value of the ratio is greater than 1, that is 2:1. If we increase both the numerator and denominator by 20,000 each, the ratio has declined. If both numerator and denominator were to increase by 20,000, the new ratio increases. Compare this scenario with the above scenario. In the above case 2, numerator and denominator increased by 20,000. In the lower case 2, numerator and denominator increased by 20,000, but we got the exact opposite results. So what is the pattern here? If original ratio is greater than 1 and both the numerator and denominator were to increase by the same amount, the new ratio will decrease. Likewise, if original ratio is less than 1 and both the numerator and denominator were to increase by the same amount, the new ratio will increase. It will be greater than the original ratio. And last, if the original ratio was exactly equal to 1, what do we see? Absolutely no change. The ratio remains the same. What happens if both numerator and denominator decrease by the same amount? So likewise, like in the slide before, the ratio is greater than 1, and if I were to decrease both numerator and denominator by 20,000, the new ratio will increase. That seems to be opposite to the previous scenario that we discussed before. Then, that means if original ratio is greater than 1 and if both numerator and denominator were to be decreased by the same amount, the new ratio will increase. If original ratio is less than 1 and both numerator and denominator were to be decreased, the new ratio will decrease. Let's talk about the third case. If original ratio is equal to 1 and both numerator and denominator were to be decreased by the same amount, well, there is absolutely no change in the ratio. Let's now jump to liquidity ratios. What is the objective of calculating liquidity ratios? Well, whether the firm will be in a position to meet its short-term obligations. And what do you mean by short-term obligations? Well, mostly current liabilities. Next, how many types of liquidity ratios exist? Current ratio and quick ratio. You should be able to know the formula, and you should also know that they are expressed in the pure ratio form. What do I mean by pure ratio form? 2:1, 1:1, 3:1, so on and so forth. Ideal ratio for current ratio is 2:1. Ideal ratio for quick ratio is 1:1. Then you should be able to define the term liquid assets, current assets, liabilities, implications of these ratios and its correlation with the project. So what do you mean by the term correlation with the project? You should be able to tell the person taking your Viva is how, in terms of your company, the liquidity ratios have changed, whether they have improved, whether they have declined, and its impact on the company that you have chosen for the project. The objective of calculating current ratios is to be able to determine the ability of the firm to meet its short-term legal obligations, the payment of creditors for the outstanding expenses, so on and so forth. How do you calculate the current ratio? Well, it is the simplest ratio of all, current assets upon current liabilities. What is the significance of this ratio? And here you need to know the significance to be able to correlate the ratio with your project. The significance of the current ratio is that higher the ratio, greater is the short-term solvency of the firm. If your current assets are going to be higher than the current liabilities, the firm will have no problem in paying off its short-term obligations. However, a lower ratio, the firm might find itself in a difficult position to pay off its short-term liabilities. So quick ratio or asset test ratio or liquid ratio is even a better tool for determining the short-term solvency of the business. But for you to be able to understand what the quick ratio is, you need to be able to understand what liquid assets are. Before I go on in explaining in detail what liquid assets are, let's quickly look at the formula for liquid ratio. Liquid ratio is current assets or quick assets upon current liabilities. The ideal quick ratio is 1:1. So what are quick assets? Quick assets are cash and cash equivalents, marketable securities and receivables. From now on to the end of this series of videos, I will discuss special considerations for each and every ratio, things which children generally miss out on while they are preparing for their Viva. The ideal quick ratio is equal to 1:1. What would happen if your current ratio and quick ratio are greater than the ideal ratio? Well, you'll not be utilizing your resources properly. Instead of investing the extra cash into fixed assets or investments, you're keeping them as liquid assets which do not fetch any greater earnings. Because if you keep something in the form of cash, you do not earn money on that. Therefore, it is not advisable to keep liquid assets beyond the ideal ratio. If you have liquid assets or current assets less than the ideal ratio, you may not have sufficient liquid or current assets to pay off your current liabilities. And that is why the concept of ideal ratios is important. Proceeding, what special considerations do we need to look into for liquid assets? First of all, what are liquid assets? Liquid assets are current assets minus inventories minus other current assets. Normally, children are used to saying minus prepaid expenses. Well, that is not the entire correct picture. It is minus other current assets, which may include prepaid expenses, advance tax, and so on and so forth. Inventories. The next question which may arise is, what are inventories? Inventories includes stock of raw material, stock of finished goods, stock of work in progress, but does not include stores and spares and loose tools. Children normally forget to say this and lose marks therein. And since we're dealing with current assets and current liabilities, you have to know what working capital is. And working capital is current assets minus current liabilities. It is the capital which you employ in the business to run its day-to-day operating activities. Proceeding, next we go to solvency ratios. Whereas the liquid assets dealt with the short-term solvency of the firm, the ability of the firm to meet its short-term liabilities, solvency ratios deal with the ability of the firm to meet its long-term liabilities. In other words, the ability of the firm to pay off its long-term obligations such as debt and other non-current liabilities. That is the objective of determining the solvency ratios. The types of solvency ratios are debt equity ratio, proprietary ratio, total asset to debt ratio, and interest coverage ratios. You need to be able to know the formula of each and every of these above ratios, and they are expressed in pure ratio form, that is 2:1, 3:1, 4:1, so on and so forth, except for interest coverage ratio, which is expressed in times. 3 times, 2 times, 1 time, so on and so forth. The ideal ratios in this context are normally related to the debt equity ratio, which is 2:1. You need to know about what is the meaning of debt, equity, in other words, shareholders' funds, total assets, and interest. You need to be able to know the implication of each and every ratio and its correlation with the project work. So, solvency ratios deal with the ability of the firm to meet its long-term obligations. The first one being debt-equity ratio. Debt-equity ratio is the ratio between debt and equity, or in other words, outsiders' funds to owners' funds or shareholders' funds. The ideal debt-equity ratio is 2:1. So what special considerations are required while learning for debt-equity ratio? The first thing that you need to know is you should be able to define the term debt. Debt means non-current liabilities, long-term borrowings, provisions, other long-term liabilities such as debt, such as debentures, mortgage, public deposits, and so forth. Next, you should be able to know or able to define what equity shareholders funds mean. Equity shareholders funds means share capital plus reserves and surpluses, and here most of the students stop giving an answer. Why? Because most of the numericals only deal with share capital and reserves and surpluses. What they do forget is to mention money received against share warrants, and that is the key to the very good answer of what shareholders funds means. Shareholders funds, again I repeat, is share capital plus reserves and surpluses plus money received against share warrants. Please do remember that. And last but not the least, you have to know what trading on equity is. If your ROI is greater than the interest rate, the firm should borrow money rather than raise money through equity, should borrow money from debt in terms of debt or debentures, because that will result in an increased earning per share. If your ROI is less than the interest rate of borrowings, then the firm should raise money through equity rather than through debt. And that is the concept of trading on equity. Proceeding, proprietary ratio. It's equal to shareholders' funds upon total assets. As you can see, as we've discussed before in our previous videos, what is a ratio? It's a comparison between the numerator and denominator. So this ratio basically tells us what proportion of total assets are actually owned and controlled by the owners or shareholders of the company. The greater the ratio, the better it is, because if the ratio is greater, then the owners own a greater part of the assets of the company and will be in a position to pay off their long-term liabilities. So higher the ratio, better it is for the creditors of the firm. Let's now proceed over to the next ratio, which is total asset to debt ratio. Now, what does total asset to debt ratio imply? Let's take an example to explain this. Now, company A has total assets of 200 rupees and same goes for company B. Now, debt in case of company A is 10 rupees and debt in case of company B is 100 rupees. The ratio of company A is higher than that of company B. So, which ratio is better? If we just compare the numerator and denominator, we see that the rate of external funds in financing total assets in case of company A is less. It means what? The claim of outsiders over the assets of the business in case of company A is smaller and in case of company B is much more. That means 50% of the assets of company B are claimed by outsiders. Therefore, in case of company A, the financial health is much better because the company A has a greater elbow room to borrow more money in the future. And in case of company B, it has very little scope to borrow more money in the future as already 50% of its assets are committed towards outside liabilities. Therefore, a higher ratio is better in this case. Next, interest coverage ratio. Interest coverage ratio is net profit before interest and tax upon interest on long-term liabilities. Now let's imagine two companies A and B. Both have net profit of 100, but in case of company A, interest is 10 rupees and in case of company B, interest is 50 rupees. Which do you think is better? The ratio of company A is 10:1, whereas in case of company B is 2:1. Now in case of company A, it has greater amount of profits as compared to the interest payment liabilities. Therefore, company A is in a much better position as it is going to be able to pay off as its interest easily and also has the ability to borrow more money in the future because of the gap between the interest payments and the profits of the business is higher. Therefore, higher the ratio, better it is. With this, I conclude with liquidity and solvency ratios. In my next video, that is part 3, I'll deal with activity ratios. Part 4 will deal with profitability ratios. Part 5 will deal with cash flow statement analysis, operating, investing and financing activities. And part 6 will deal with comparative analysis and financial statements. If you like our videos, please do not forget to like, subscribe, share, comment, ask questions if you want to, but do remember to press the bell icon for future videos. Thank you and good luck for your Viva.